A hormone called relaxin helps loosen up pregnant women's hips. Without it, the pain of delivery would be unbearable. Its job done, however, relaxing lingers in female bodies for up to a year, when softer ligaments make new mothers more prone to injury, as Jessica Ennis-Hill, an Olympic champion heptathlete, discovered in training after giving birth in 2014. 5 years later, Dame Jessica started Jennies, a fitness app to help other women perform safe postnatal workouts. It now lets users optimize workouts for the different phases of their menstrual cycles, and has just concluded a successful funding round. First, it was pets, then fish. Now it's poultry and pigs. The list of animals allowed to feed on insects is growing. A new EU law authorizing the use of insect protein in poultry and pig feed came into force earlier this month, a significant milestone for an industry keen to worm its way into the animal feed business. Since a ban on processed animal protein imposed in 2021 in the wake of the mad cow crisis, say and fish meal have become the bedrock of animal feed in Europe. Carbon-rich soil is dark, crumbly, and fertile, and retains some water. But erosion can occur if soil is dry, which is a likely effect if it contains inadequate amounts of carbon. Erosion is of course bad for people trying to grow crops or breed animals on that terrain. In the 1970s and 80s, Lal was studying soils in Africa so devoid of organic matter that the ground had become extremely hard, like cement. There he met a pioneer in the study of global warming, who suggested that carbon from the soil had moved into the atmosphere. This is now looking increasingly likely. So the phone company designed phones for the use globally with this added feature. Ethnographic research has also been carried out in computer companies. In one company, IT systems administration were observed for several weeks. It was found that a large amount of their work involved communicating with colleagues in order to solve problems, but that they didn't have a standard way of exchanging information from spreadsheets and so on. So the team came up with an idea for software that would help them to do this. I guess we're sort of in the middle of a major virology education. Charles Rice of the Rockefeller University in New York City. I think that the field has definitely changed since the days when I was a graduate student. And I think one of things that it is very reassuring now is really the global response to this pandemic. In the sort of academic and clinical and insert for my community the rate of progress. Earlier today, 10/5/2020 Rice was informed that he had won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for the discovery of the virus that causes hepatitis C. The identification of the virus has led to tests and treatments for the condition. Rice shared the prize with Harvey Alter of the National Institutes of Health and Michael Houghton of the University of Alberta. Yeah, it's really young, it's a baby. They say if you translate that million-year lifespan to that of a human, it's then equivalent of a week-old babies do you bump into. If you just walk around your neighborhood there's really little chance that you meet the baby who is the 1 week old. Right, so first of all, it's hard to find these systems, they are pretty rare. Banna's colleagues got lucky spotting this one. Using radio telescopes, they were able to image the star system and they say it differs from our own solar system in more than just start count. In your solar system, for example, all 8 planets orbit the Sun more or less in a single plane. Our solar system is far from the only way to put together stars and their planets. If you look all the stars in our galaxy and Milky Way, right? More than a half of the stars are forming multiples, meaning that there are more than one star in the system. Astrophysicist J. Hyundai of the Carnegie Institution for Science. He has studied one of those systems with stars. It's called GW Orion is, and it's freshly formed on the 1 million years old. The findings in the journal, +1. Overall, Rowe says one bigger lesson emerged on how to avoid scraping perfectly good food into the trash. So, for us, the real take-home here was to choose a smaller meal. And you're less likely to generate leftovers, and that's a good thing, because leftover all else equal tend to be wasted more often. Not the Rowe doesn't have a few aspirational Tupperware sitting around. I'm guilty of this as well. We have stuff left over from last Thanksgiving sitting around their freezer, and I know people who have moved with frozen items before ever getting it right actually. When restaurants first shut down, early in the pandemic, Americans raided grocery stores. They stayed in cooking more at home. And, presumably, generating more leftovers. Those leftovers can be a convenient future meal, but they've also got a dark side. There's a tendency that if you put the item on the plate that's a leftovers, there's a higher probability that you are not going to fully consume that item. And so it's probably going to go to waste. Brian Rowe, an applied economist at the Olo State University. He and his colleagues recently studied leftovers and food waste by tracking the eating habits of 18 men and women in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The study's in the journal, Nature Communications. In the future, Darcy says a brick wall could potentially serve a dual purpose, providing structural support and storing electricity, generated from renewable energy sources, like solar panels. The technology is still at least a few years away from being ready for the commercial market. Right now, the energy storage capacity of the bricks is still pretty low, about 1% of a lithium-ion battery. The team is now testing ways to improve brick performance, because it looks like you can't teach an old brick new tracks.